Good afternoon and welcome to our January webinar entitled Resolutions for Caregivers, How to Give and Get Help. My name is Brooks Kenny and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Lotsa Helping Hands, and we're delighted that you all have signed up and will be spending the hour with us. We have a lot of great information to share with you today. The presenters for today, we are very fortunate to have Suzanne Mintz, who is the President and CEO of the National Family Caregivers Association. She is going to be sharing remarks with us this afternoon about giving and receiving help, how to ask for help if you are a caregiver, and how to offer help if you are seeing a loved one, a family member, a friend, a colleague who is in need of help. Some of the ways that you can go ahead and offer that help. So we're really fortunate and delighted to have her share her wisdom with us this afternoon. I am Brooks Kenny, as I mentioned, and we also have Greg Rollish, who is a member services representative here at Lotsa Helping Hands. He is a key player with our member support center, and if any of you have been in a Lotsa Helping Hands community, which we know there's a mixture on the call today, some of you have been in community before and others are just here to learn more, but if you've been in a community and had any question related to your community website, chances are you've had the opportunity to engage with Greg either by phone or email, and he is a really huge asset to our member support center, and I am delighted that he's joining us today to walk you through some specific tips live. And so I know that'll be a real treat for many of you who have interacted with him in the past by phone or email. So what is our agenda for today? We are focused on, certainly it is a new year, and in 2012 and in January, as is often the case, we start talking about things that we want to do. Maybe we want to exercise more or go to bed earlier or read more books. But we really wanted to focus our thinking and our outreach this year at Lotsa Helping Hands toward educating caregivers about ways that they can ask for help, as well as educating the circles of community around that caregiver or around a family who might be dealing with a medical crisis. How can they best participate in helping? How can they offer their help? How can they get involved? And why is this so important? From our perspective at Lotsa Helping Hands, at some point in our lives, most of us become caregivers. Most of you will, most of your friends will too. Many will care for an elderly parent, some a sick child, a friend. Caregivers continue to give their time and their care. Some help for days, others months, but many caregivers help for years and years. And while they continue to help their loved one, they'll continue to work, to raise their families, do laundry, pay the bills, cook dinner, help with homework, mow the lawn, and maintain their friendships. And the reality is they will need a break. They'll need a timeout, a few moments to catch their breath. They'll need a way to organize and coordinate and keep their loved ones informed. And they'll need to raise their hand and ask for help. And hopefully they'll have a way to manage that help. And that's really our vision and what we're hoping to achieve in our resolution here at Lotsa Helping Hands for the new year is to educate both the caregivers in ways to ask for help, but also all of us around the caregiver who might be watching a colleague juggling when they are trying to work and they're caring for an elderly parent, or watching a neighbor take care of a child with special needs. We all know that we've had that experience, and so we are hoping this year to continue to provide members and those of you on the line today with ideas on how to do that and to continue to raise your hand and offer or provide that help that so many desperately need. So that's our focus for today. As we go through those tips, we will also be wrapping it up with showing you specific ways to use the Lotsa Helping Hands service in order to organize that help. As many of you know, Lotsa Helping Hands provides free private community websites for organizing help during medical crisis, caregiver exhaustion, or when caring for an elderly parent. So that is the agenda for the afternoon, and I'm going to begin by again introducing Suzanne Mintz, the President and CEO of the National Family Caregivers Association. We had a very interesting thing occur yesterday in the late afternoon. Suzanne Mintz herself is a caregiver for her husband, and she was made aware of a caregiving challenge that she had this afternoon at the exact time of our webinar that was scheduled. And so rather than reschedule and send emails out to the 200 folks who registered to participate with us this afternoon, she offered to record her remarks, and we have her contact information. So you all, if you have specific questions or want to reach out to her after today, we can make sure that that happens. But it was just a very telling situation where Suzanne, the head of the organization that is dedicated to empowering caregivers, was herself in a caregiving situation that needed her attention this afternoon, literally at 2:30 Eastern. So she was very gracious to record her remarks for us this afternoon. And so I'm going to begin by sharing those with you, and you'll see the slides and hear her voice, and then we'll move on to the tips and features of using Lotsa Helping Hands. So I give you Suzanne Mintz.
Thanks, Brooks. As Brooks told you, my name is Suzanne Mintz, and I am the President and CEO of the National Family Caregivers Association. But I think more importantly, for this presentation, I am also a family caregiver. My husband, Stephen, has MS. He was diagnosed in 1974. He was 31 at the time, and I was 28, and so you can do the math on how old we are now. Stephen's MS progressed slowly, wasn't very noticeable at the beginning, and he could, do everything. But over time, the MS began to show itself, and he would have problems first with his right leg and then with his left leg. And to make a long story short, he is now in a wheelchair full-time, and he needs help with all of the daily activities of living, whether it's getting out of bed or showering or getting dressed or even going to the bathroom. And so even though I work full-time, I also consider myself a full-time family caregiver because I'm always on call. So even though you may be caring, let's say, for your parent or your child or your sister, and they may have different conditions than MS, there are common things that we all share as family caregivers. And what I'm going to be talking about today is about asking for and getting help. I know so many people don't want to do that, but I'm here to tell you that it really is one of the very best things you can do for yourself as well as for your loved one. So let's get into it. I'm going to be talking about two things today, all of which will help you get the help that you need. Reaching out for help and how to ask for help are two very different things. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. How do you actually reach out for help? And once you have done that, how do you define the specific help that you need? And then how do you get it from your circles of community? We'll first begin with reaching out for the help you need. I think one of the most important things is to recognize asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It doesn't mean that you can't do things. It's actually a sign of strength, because what it is saying is, I recognize the things that I'm good at, the things that I have time for, and which things I can delegate to somebody else or ask somebody else to do. And being able to recognize your strengths and your limitations is definitely a sign of strength. One of the first things to do in putting together a list of things that you need help with is to create a list about the major things that worry you as a family caregiver. Is it finances? You know, how are you going to pay for things? Is it your own health and what happens if you get sick? And so who's going to be there to care for Mom or John? Is it your kids? Is it how are you going to pull everything together in order to make the next trip to the doctor go smoothly? So we all have worries about our caregiving circumstances. I know I do. And they change, of course, based on circumstances. So you just need to think about no more than 3 or 4. There are only so many things we can tackle at one time. And I love this slide, the pictures of all the people. But if you think about it, caregivers do all of these things and more. And so what you need to recognize is that caregiving, like any job, is made up of lots of individual tasks. You know, if you look at the term, you know, caregiver or caregiving, it has 2 components. The care has to do with all of the actual work that you do, but the giving is what comes from your heart. It's the emotions behind being a family caregiver. So continuing on with the idea of lists, and I know everybody hates to be told to make lists. So I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to suggest that a way of getting a handle on things is to make some notes. And in this case, it's what is a list of the tasks that need to get done in any given week. Some of them are probably things that are weekly things, like going to the supermarket and making dinners and driving the kids to soccer practice, or which days you visit your mom. So make a list of those things and see if you can put them into categories. I mean, a number of them obviously fall into the category of household chores. Another could be things I specifically have to do for my care recipient. And another group could be things I need to do for myself. I'm a big believer in categories because it seems to me it's easier to comprehend the totality of everything rather than just a random list that doesn't coalesce. And so once you have a list, you're ready to find out how to get the help for that list of tasks, for that list of needs. And so we're now going to talk about how do you share the caring. You know, just the fact that you are listening to this webinar says you have already decided that getting help is important. And that might be the most difficult decision of all. But the next slide or so is just taking all of those tasks and the categories they're in and just literally listing them on one side of a page. And the value of, let's say, taking a piece of paper and folding it in half lengthwise is on the left-hand side, you can write out some of the things you need. And on the opposite side can be the ways that other people can help you. So, for instance, if you really need some time for yourself, you might need a night out with your friends. And so how might you get that? Might some friends be asked to take you out for dinner or take you to the movies? Obviously, in going out and enjoying things is usually more enjoyable when you do it with friends. And the value of getting out of the house is that it takes you away from the environment in which you have responsibilities. So being able to go out for dinner and a movie puts you in a respite world, if it were. And so your caring communities that could be one of the things that is listed with the possible suggestion of it be a dinner and movie. And your friends pick up the tab. That's always nice. Another need might be a ride to doctor's appointments for mom, or maybe even for you if your car's in the shop, for instance. And then, of course, what could be offered is, a regular ride at such and such time for the next 3 weeks. It can be very, very specific. And one thing that we know about volunteers is, since everybody is so busy these days, people are afraid of getting caught up in some long-term arrangement that doesn't have an end date. And with your communities, people can sign up for just what they feel they can handle, just what they want to do. And so if it's, saying they'll provide a ride for the next 2 weeks, that's great. You get what you need, and they get the feeling of having helped a friend. Something that always comes up, whether you're in a caregiving household or not, is who's going to mow the lawn and shovel the snow? And that is a great thing to get other people to do. There's no reason why you need to do that yourself. And so maybe your friend Mary is going to offer her teenage son to come over to your house and shovel out the driveway next time there's a big storm. Some people love to cook, and some people hate to cook. And if you are in that latter category, having meals ready-made brought to the house, every day or a couple of times a week, that would really make your life easier. And that's really what asking for help and getting it is all about, to make your day-to-day life easier, to remove some of the stress that is so much a part of being a family caregiver. Other things in terms of needs, do you have a pile of insurance forms that need to be filled out and filed? I mean, I will tell you, my eyes glaze over when I look at forms. Forms are not my friends. I'm much better off with preparing dinners. I have no problem doing that. But if somebody would fill out forms for me, I would be ever so grateful. And that would remove a big stressor from my life. Sometimes, you just need to cry, you need to vent. And that's where a good friend comes in, especially if that person is or has been a family caregiver. Because let's face it, walking in caregiving shoes makes a big difference. It gives you a true understanding of what somebody else is going through. But knowing that there's somebody you can call on when you're having a down day is a really good thing. And then we talked about grouping things. Well, we've already talked about mowing the lawn, preparing dinner. Other things that are part of the day-to-day is cleaning the house, getting the shopping done, even help with paying the bills. Those all fit under the category of regular household chores. And there are people who would love to help you that way, whereas they would be comfortable doing something else, like, let's say, driving your husband to his PT appointment. And the list goes on. There is a complete list of, I wouldn't say complete, but a big list of things that family caregivers need help with, and a corresponding way that somebody can offer help. And you can find that in the resources, tips and tools sections of NFCA's website, and the address for that will come up at the end of this webinar. And so I hope that you are finding this very, very helpful. And just want to recap a little bit that first you need to define the help you need in very detailed, specific ways, as we've just talked about. Someone to provide some handyman services, someone to help you drop your car off at the garage, and once you have your lists and you put them into categories, that's a great way to share the information that you need with your community coordinator, because it can help them sort through who might be the best people to approach regarding different tasks. And as we went through, tasks of things you need help with can be, really, really specific, and they shouldn't all be about actual chores. The idea of having friends take you out for dinner, the shoulder to cry on, those are things for you. And within your list, you need to put down some things for you, because we all can't keep going 24/7. We need time to rebuild our sources of energy, both our physical ones as well as our emotional ones. And so in closing, I want to share with you some information here about the National Family Caregivers Association that's up on your screen now, and our website, www.thefamilycaregiver.org. And you can call our 800 number at 896-3650. So I'm very pleased to have been able to provide information on this webinar about asking for help. I must tell you that it is something that I do all the time. As some of you may know, I care for my husband, who has multiple sclerosis and is in a wheelchair full time and needs help with all of the activities of living. And I don't hesitate to ask other people for help. In fact, and this may sound mercenary, but if somebody new, moves in across the street, the first thing I think about is, I hope there's a guy there and he's young and strong, because that's who I would call if Stephen falls while we're doing a transfer. What I need at that time is the emergency help, someone who can pop over and help pick him up and get him back in his chair. And so finding out who you can call on in an emergency is just as important as the list of prepared tasks, if you will. So once again, thank you for listening to this webinar. I hope it's been helpful, and I know becoming a member of NFCA will be very helpful to all the family caregivers listening in, and membership for family caregivers is free. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Great. So again, we just want to thank Suzanne Mintz for sharing her thoughts with us today on how to ask for help and how to offer specific help to those in your life who are in a caregiving role. And we wanted to remind you that the National Family Caregivers Association is a membership organization. Membership for caregivers is free, and so you are welcome to go to the familycaregiver.org and learn more about the organization. So again, we're very grateful that Suzanne shared her thoughts with us this afternoon. We at Lotsa Helping Hands, again, just a reminder for those of you who are not yet part of a Lotsa Helping Hands community, our service is a free service that can be found at lotsahelpinghands.com. And when you create a community, it's essentially a private community website that can be used to organize family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, those people who are in your circles of community who want to offer their help during a caregiving situation, a medical crisis, maybe even an unexpected life event that occurs. And you can organize those well-meaning offers of help using a private community website found at lotsahelpinghands.com. And so toward that end, we are going to be looking at some specific tips and features for customizing your Lotsa Helping Hands community website. And we want to remind you that on our home pages, we have several different recordings of different webinars, demos of different tips and features of this service. So we also have a getting started webinar. So if you're brand new to Lotsa and you are just here to learn more today, I encourage you to take a look at the Getting Started webinar, which actually walks you through the very first steps in creating a community. Here's an example of a fictitious community that we've created for the purposes of our discussion today. And it includes, it's just a screenshot of a community homepage called Todd's Helping Hands. And Todd and his wife were put in a very sudden caregiving situation when Todd's wife, Mary, was diagnosed with cancer. And Mary's friend, Jennifer, knew about Lotsa Helping Hands and went ahead and created a community to help them, to organize meals, to take children to sporting events, to drive to chemotherapy, and a whole variety of other things in the calendar, but also to provide emotional support to the family. And so we're going to use Todd's Helping Hands as a way to demonstrate some of the key features in the Lotsa Helping Hands platform that allows for the caregiver to ask for the specific help they need and for the volunteers to offer it. And so we'll begin by reviewing adding activities to the calendar. As we've talked about in the past, the calendar is really the hallmark of the Lotsa Helping Hands platform. And so we want to make sure that everyone has a good sense of where to find that information. And then Greg's going to also walk you through ways to use the message board. The message board is a wonderful way to share emotional support with one another and to really post thoughtful comments and to engage in community. And then finally, creating custom community sections. One of the things we hear so often from members of our communities through our story project and social media sites is they say, wow, we really were able to make the Lotsa Helping Hands community very unique to us. We were able to put customized things in our community so that anyone that logged in and participated really understood that it was for Todd and Mary in this fictitious example. But we've got many examples of feedback like that from the hundreds of thousands of people that are using our free service to organize help during times of need. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg, and he's going to walk you through these 3 tips. And we're going to save about 10 minutes towards the end, and we will be responding to the questions that you all posed in advance, and we're hoping to have time to take some live questions as well. So Greg, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Brooks. Looking forward to going into these three sections with you and providing the insight from the Member Support Center into some best practices and tips for using these sections of your community website. The coordination calendar is by default the centerpiece of each community website. This is where community coordinators can add those tasks that fit cleanly into a specific date and time so that the next time someone asks, "What can I do to help?" you have a perfect answer for them. Having concrete needs listed with all the necessary details included allows for a bit of grace during an otherwise challenging and confusing time. Adding an activity to the calendar is easy, and you can see how to do so in the demo section of our resources page at lotsahelpinghands.com. Again, the calendar is best for things that have a clear and concise date and time. There are plenty of workaround options for needs more specific to your community that we'll cover shortly. When a new need comes up, you can add it to the calendar quickly and easily, and then notify members of your community website that a need has been posted so they can sign in and sign up. It's that simple. Don't hesitate to get creative with them too. Errands and tangible needs are obviously the staples of the calendar, but as Suzanne's covered, sometimes little things can make a big difference. Consider adding things to the calendar like phone calls, opportunities for the caregiver to relax or vent, or plan a weekend getaway for a small group to remind them that they're surrounded by those who love and support them. You can also edit items on the calendar when your needs change. This includes the activity notes, seen here, which are sent out as reminders 1 month, 1 week, and 1 day in advance of any member's commitments, as well as adding new dates to an existing activity, changing the number of volunteers needed, and editing the dates or adding additional occurrences. You can see doing so with those tabs is easy right here. With all this information in one place, life becomes much easier for the caregiver and care recipient. The message board community section allows both coordinators and members of community websites to create posts, reply to each other, and generate a discussion within your community website. Coordinators can use this section to keep a journal of updates that allows members to stay informed. Members can then come in and comment on specific posts, reply to each other's comments, all without the need for those extra emails or phone calls that can easily start piling up when helpers and members of the community want to keep in touch with both the care recipient and each other. Here's what it looks like when creating a post. Title, content, author, that's all you need. The toolbar function exists in several different parts of the community and allows anyone who's writing a post to use rich text formatting to create dynamic messages. Here you can see a ready to edit text field and the option to show toolbar on the left. Clicking this brings up the toolbar on the bottom of the text field. Along with simple text edits, alignment, formatting functions, those posting also have the option of including images and even editing the HTML of the field. This can allow you to post really customized messages and bring in other parts of the web like links, thematic elements, and images that are hosted elsewhere online. Say if you've got something posted on Flickr or Picasa, you'll easily be able to add that in using the toolbar below. Lastly, coordinators have the option of adding a custom community section to allow you to share needs that are more specific to your community. You can also share updates or general information. I'll walk you through the steps for creating a custom section now. Opening up a web browser, here I've got Todd's Helping Hands, and I'm going to toggle over to the Administration tab, which again is only available to coordinators. And here you can see the back-end dashboard where coordinators are really making their communities their own. Here in the link for sections, announcements, and emails is where we're going to go to create the new section. We can manage the community sections here, seen on the left, or follow the Add a Section link right here. There are 5 different types of custom sections you can make. For each one, you'll give the section a name, a description, and revise the permissions to personalize the content's privacy. The gallery will allow you to create a new photo album. With the resources section, you can create a collection of links or upload files from your computer and make them available for download. Creating a discussions and pages section will add another message board to the community. Again, you can edit the privacy and permissions, say if you want more specific communication to take place with an immediate family or just between the primary caregivers. A button section will create a link that directs you to another page or web page of your choice. If you want to send someone to Facebook or any other resource online, you can easily add this to the left side of the community homepage. And the general section is as straightforward as it gets. This will create a page with no posts, no comments, just one simple format. This is great for outlining important information separately from the calendar, message board, or other community sections. You could consider adding a custom general section that includes information about what to do in an emergency situation, who to call, and what they need to know. We can walk through that now. Simply select General Section, Continue, and here we have it. We'll title it Emergency Info, and can add necessary information right in the text box. We'll use that toolbar that I mentioned earlier to give it a bit more style, bolding the top and make this a nice red. And here you'll see where we can edit the permissions of this section. Since this is just an emergency information piece, we're going to keep it really plain and simple and not allow members to comment. If you scroll down, you can also see that you can add specific permissions one member at a time. Simply click Save Changes at the bottom. We can view this section just as we entered it, and you can see here it appears on the left side of the home page. These new sections can be personalized however you'd like and are a great way to enhance your community's capacity to help. In certain cancer situations, like we said, even though this is a fictitious community, you can imagine the help that can be provided by adding dietary info, specific needs, or even call to actions to raise money for families that are dealing with increasing medical bills or costs due to transportation or other elements that begin to pile up.
Greg, I'm really glad you mentioned that. I just wanted to jump in with regard to the custom sections because we often have people, in addition to having content there, people will create a custom blog. And so we often get the question, does the care recipient often participate in the community? And oftentimes they do. There might be the caregiver who participates in the community and the family's circles of friends and neighbors and colleagues, but the recipient may participate as well. And we have a couple stories on our website that showcase that. One in particular that comes to mind, it was a community called Team Pam, and Pam herself, she made it as part of her treatment. She blogged every single day through a custom blog section that she created in her community website. Everyone else coordinated the calendar and the meals and the care, but she logged in every day and shared a blog with her community members. And so it immediately allowed her to stay in touch with the more than 70 folks who were part of the community, but it didn't put the burden on her or her caregiver to have to update everybody on how she was doing. So she did that every single day during her treatment. And there are many, many ways that we can use these custom sections in order to organize help and add specific things that are needed. One idea that also came to mind in listening to Suzanne was adding, I don't know if you want to click over to back to the community, Greg. One of the things that can also be added as a task in the community by clicking on the create a new activity link there, we could even include things that are miscellaneous, like doing research or coming over during a particular period of time to fill out insurance forms. As much as everything is online today, as Suzanne mentioned, there are many, many times when we're dealing with medical issues where you really have to sit down and hunker down and fill out all those forms. So if there are ways to do that through an activity, it's a great way to bring your community together. We often have times where people are in a community and there are family members who are at a distance, and wow, they really want to help. They want to deliver that meal, but they're not able to. Maybe they can do research for Todd and Mary. Maybe there can be a custom section in here that has links to great takeout restaurants that someone at a distance could call the restaurant and have a meal delivered. And so they're participating in community, but they're not necessarily living next door. A wonderful community comes to mind that I spoke with many years ago, but it stays with me. A family that was coping with cancer, and she, the primary caregiver, had literally a veritable herd of wonderful friends and volunteers, over 200 folks who came together and literally did her laundry, walked her children to the bus, did everything that they could possibly do through these customizations so that the caregiver could care for her loved one. And so these are just a few of the ideas. If we can somehow marry the tips that Suzanne provided in terms of those specific ways that caregiving families need help with a solution, an online solution like Lotsa Helping Hands, in order to match those needs and organize it so that everybody knows what to do when, and there's a lot less burden on the family. And it allows us as volunteers who see that family struggling, it gives us something really specific and tangible that we can do to help. And we all know that feels really good to be able to participate that way. So I just wanted to add a few comments, Greg, but I really appreciate you walking through those steps. We have a handful of minutes now, and so what I'd like to do is address 4 questions that were posed by folks in the registration process. And then I wanted to also remind you, if you look at it should be on your upper right hand area of your computer screen, there is a question feature. And so you can include a question there as well if you wanted to. And if you want to include a comment that I see some of you sharing, you're welcome to do that, and certainly just let me know if I can share it with the group, and we will do that. So while those questions are coming in, I want to acknowledge 4 of the questions that came through during the registration process. And the first was, I would like suggestions for handling times of suddenly increased needs for an otherwise low maintenance long-term care situation. I absolutely love this question because we get it often. We have communities in the more than 60,000 that have been created. We have communities that have been created to help people in very acute situations. There's a immediate event. There's a cancer diagnosis. There's a significant challenge that occurs, and everybody rallies around the family. We also have thousands of communities that have been created to help a more long-term situation where the day-to-day needs might not be present yet, but the community of support is needed. And so what I would advise around that is having a community set up with members that include your friends, your family, your neighbors, perhaps friends that are living at a distance, church, synagogue members, having those folks in place. And maybe so they're all verified, they're part of your community, and maybe you provide them with a monthly update about how your loved one is doing. The reason why this is so important is it allows you and your loved one to be prepared, because we all know in long-term care situations and some chronic conditions, for example, like MS in the case of what Suzanne shared, or even in a situation with Alzheimer's where the day-to-day needs at the beginning may not be very great, but there may be episodes of need, or there may be acute situations within the long-term care journey. And so it's a great way to use Lotsa Helping Hands to have your community set up, prepared, and at the ready, so that when somebody, when your family is in need, you can simply create an activity and you can create an announcement and get the word out to everyone in your community right away, so they can sign in and see the needs that might be required for helping. And it's a really wonderful way to give you as a caregiver peace of mind to know that even if you're in a long-term care situation, you still have a community that's sitting, right by your side, and they're there when you need them. And even though you don't need them every day, doesn't mean you don't need to have a community there for you. A second question was, how can other family members show the appreciation that we feel for the caregiver? And Greg he knows firsthand because he has the wonderful privilege of working one-on-one with so many families. So I'm going to turn this one over to him and share with you all the Well Wishes feature, which is one of many ways that we can encourage you within your Lotsa Helping Hands community to provide that support to the caregiver and give them the emotional juice that they probably need given what they're coping with. So Greg, do you want to walk through the well wishes briefly?
Absolutely. Thank you. The Well Wishes section is a great feature that allows people to come in and quickly say what's on their mind, or to drop a reminder, or really even just say hi to a caregiver or care recipient using a community website. You can see it appears here on the left, right above the Lots of Resources for You section. And in our fictitious community, it's blank, but you can see that it's open to just about anything. The format is like the comments that you'll see on a message board section, and it's really easy to come in and just drop in a subject line and a message. Add it to the community and see that all of these well wishes will be collected in one place. Another member can come in and reply to this specific message, adding it below. And instead of piling up all those extra emails and phone calls in a caregiver's voicemail box or in their email inbox, they can easily just scroll down to the well wishes section. It'll highlight new messages below, as you can see on the message board and photo gallery, and allow them to really take time and appreciate all those well-meaning offers of support. And even if you've got a full calendar and all the tasks are signed up for, just that expression of gratitude or even just love in the well wishes section can really make a caregiver's day.
Great, thanks so much, Greg. We're going to have a couple more coming your way, just a heads up there. The third question that came in was, I really wanted to address just briefly, what activities are well received by seniors in the spring after being housebound through the winter months? And such a great question, and we wanted to just point you to our list of great nonprofit partners here at Lotsa Helping Hands. We are very fortunate to be working with 50 of the nation's leading national nonprofit organizations that provide resources to their members, and they provide Lotsa Helping Hands to their members as well. And so I encourage you to take a look at that list, whoever asked that question, and there are many resources within there that support specific tips for helping seniors. In our resources directory as well, there are a full list of resources that we're continuing to add to. So if you have particular resources that have been helpful in your journey, you are more than welcome to there we go. Here's the directory. You're more than welcome to submit your suggestions or pass it on to an organization that you think should be listed here. We're happy to continue to add to it so that members of our communities know where they can get support. Some of the initial ideas that come to mind when we looked at this question is activities that could be easily incorporated into the calendar. Maybe it's helping a senior with gardening, offering to take a walk with the individual and get that fresh air, inviting them to participate in a neighborhood activity, or just simply having a visit and bringing fresh fruits and vegetables and flowers from the farmer's market, for example. Anything that incorporates going outside but also invites them to participate in community are just some of the high level things that we wanted to point out. And I'm sure there are many, many more, and we encourage you to take a look at some of our partner sites for more ideas. A fourth question that was asked is whether or not you can fully set up the website before members get invited to it. And so we'll go ahead and click on the the People tab here, and we wanted to highlight for you, and it really could be the People or the Administration tab, I suppose, but as a coordinator of a community, and there can be as many coordinators as you like, there are no rules in terms of some people want to invite everybody first and then build out the tasks that are created, and then many, like the person who posed this question, want to have everything organized. So you can easily add members to your community. You can add multiple members at a time, and you can even go ahead within that calendar section and create the new activities that might be needed for your particular situation. And then by notifying members through the Notify Members link, you can send them an invitation to join the community. Once they do, they create their own unique password for the community. And once signed in, they can immediately see all the tasks on the calendar that require helping. And so it's really up to you, based on your situation and the people that you're inviting. You can do what you think will work best to really get everybody engaged with the efforts that you have. So I'm really I don't know, Greg, if you want to add to that, but I think the bottom line message is there aren't any rules. Make it work for you, and we're certainly here to help if people have specific questions on that.
Absolutely. One of the best things that I feel like I share with people on the phone is that you can't break it. It's all about making it yours, and there's nothing you can't go back and edit with a few clicks, or again, easily contact us at support to walk you through.
Great. Hey, Greg, there's a couple questions that are similar to this one that I'm going to read to you if you want to show folks. And you get this question a lot, I know, in support, but how do you handle tasks like research or like taking a car to get an oil changed, for example, to-do items that don't necessarily have to be time specific, but that you want entered into the calendar and you want people to sign up for? What's the best way to handle that?
There are a couple of good options, and the best one I would absolutely say is those custom community sections that we covered before. Again, they're really easy to create simply through the Administration tab, in the link for sections, announcements, and emails, and then using the Add a New Section link right at the top. Generally, you can share this information in a really straightforward way using a general section, or in a Discussions and Pages section that will look like a message board that'll allow people to share, chime in, even brainstorm a bit together to find out the best way to take care of something. And I do hear this one a lot. The oil changes, the donations or anything like that, that doesn't need to take place on a specific time or day, but could really, really help out a caregiver. Just listing this and making it available will really enable your community to chip in even when things don't fit perfectly on the calendar.
And so even naming it something like unscheduled, tasks that need help, and if they were to do that, and then as updates are made, when people log in, they can easily see that they're new things that have been posted on in that section, and then they can offer their help. So that's a great suggestion. There were several people that asked that question, so I thought I would just address it. To cover off some of these questions. A bunch of you are sending them in, so I'm gonna continue to take a look. I have a church group that covers several areas. Is it better to create communities around each family the group covers, or is there a way to keep the various families' needs on one community? Wonderful question that was asked by Stephen, and we have thousands of churches and religious organizations that use Lotsa Helping Hands to organize help for multiple families. And so oftentimes they include the community URL in their church or organization's bulletin and on their website for people to sign in. So there might be hundreds of people who are members of the community and can support multiple families during times of need. There are many different ways to do that. We won't have a lot of time right now to walk you through how to create some custom sections to manage multiple families, but we certainly can provide that help via our member support center. I will tell you that we are rolling out, beginning in 2012, a series of new features that we're very excited about here at Lotsa Helping Hands. So we hope you stay in close touch with us so that we can tell you about them. But things such as grouping that would allow even community coordinators to more easily manage multiple families at a time, and some other really interesting features as well that we've been adding to our platform based on the feedback from folks like you. So yes, you can use it in your church or synagogue. Yes, you can use it in your local town or neighborhood. Yes, you can support multiple families at a time, and we're certainly here to help you figure out the best way to do that for your specific needs. We did receive a question and a compliment, so I'm going to go ahead and read the compliment too. It says, "This is an awesome website. I'm curious, where do you get your funding?" So we want to just head that one off and make sure we're clear about that. Yes, the service is and always will be free to members of our communities. It's a very important value that we all hold very dear here at Lotsa Helping Hands. Our funding comes from two sources. One is through sponsorship of our platform. So sometimes you might see, as you see here in our Todd's Helping Hands community, you can see there are messages on the top and on the side of the community website. Most of the time you'll see those being ones related to Lotsa Helping Hands, tips about our service or promotions for our webinars. Sometimes those would also be advertisements from companies that provide, value-added services to our members. We also have a monthly newsletter and a monthly email campaign that industry partners who care about caregiving and our audience, they provide a sponsorship fee to include that information. So we do have those particular ways of bringing revenue into the company. We also have a license program where companies can private label and make the service their own and offer it to their audience, and they pay us license fees in order to do that. And so that is our basic revenue model, and we certainly will always have the service as a free service for the members like you who use it. There are a number of questions that are still coming through, and oh my goodness, I just have to share. We just got a comment coming in that says, I just created a link to a PayPal page. So helpful. Thank you for this info. So I am I'm just so thrilled that someone just in this webinar realized they could create a custom section and is already using that feature. So that is just a wonderful thing to hear. And to the person who shared, I think I'm gonna read another comment that just came rolling in as a nice way to end it, because we certainly you all tell the story of Lotsa Helping Hands much better than we do. Someone just wrote in, "I don't know what I would have done without Lotsa Helping Hands at my family's time of need. Great job, and thank you to everyone there." And in closing, on behalf of everyone at Lotsa, we just want to thank you for participating today in the webinar, and want to thank Suzanne Mintz again for her contribution to this topic related to caregiving. And of course, thanks to Greg for sharing his brilliance on the tips and features. And just a reminder that we are very much committed to engaging with you all. If you want to just flip back to the previous slide, we are working hard to develop stories about Lotsa Helping Hands and the people that are participating in community. We believe so strongly in our country that we all need to help one another. We need to come together in the spirit of community and support one another when we're going through tough times. And so the best way for us to do that is to continue to retell these inspirational stories that you all share with us. So come visit us on our website, check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, share your story via the Story Project, join us again for another webinar. Please tell your friends who might be in need, and help us spread the word so that anyone that needs a helping hand can find one. That's really what we're all about here, and we appreciate your participation today and your resolution to offer your help and raise your hand when you need help in your own life. So with that, I will thank you for your participation and look forward to seeing you online at our February webinar, which promises to be a very inspirational session where we will be interviewing a special guest, not yet to be announced, about her experience caring for a loved one. And so more on that in the next several weeks. And if you missed part of this session, or you're eager to share it with a friend or someone in your organization, there will be a recording of the webinar available within the next several days, and we'll send a note out to folks letting you know when it's there. And we invite you to take another look or share it with those in your community as well. So with that, I thank you and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Take care.